Hello. This video will help orient you to a very important tool we use for diagramming in Thea, which is BibleArc. Now on my browser, I'm going to open up the BibleArc website. I have that bookmarked in my browser. Now whenever you open up BibleArc, you're going to end up with this default view which has Romans chapter 1 and Genesis 1, but that's not what we're going to use. We're going to open a project here. If you're new to BibleArc, you won't have existing projects. You'll have to create a new one. I do have existing projects here though, so I'm going to choose this particular project, Old Testament Narrative. Now let me explain the difference between projects and diagrams. A project is like a folder and the diagram is like a file. So each project can have as many individual diagrams as you would like. So I opened up my Old Testament Narrative folder. As you can see, this is the title of the project. I can select or deselect the star to mark it as a particularly important project, and I can change the name of it anytime. I can even choose to duplicate the project if I want to, or delete it. As you can see in my project, I have many different diagrams already. And if you want to create a new diagram, you just scroll to the bottom of this selection on the right. You look for this gray box with the plus sign in the middle. You click that and you have 5 different options. Now, don't be confused. In Thea, we use the term block diagram, and you might be tempted to click this button called diagram. But please don't. That's not the tool that we use. We actually use the third tool called phrase. Be sure you click that, and it'll open up this box on the left, which will allow you to choose the text you want to work with. Now first, you want to make sure that you've selected the version you want your diagram to be in. In Thea, we use the ESV for default as of now. If you wanted to use a different version, let's say if you're not using this for a Thea project but for your own use, then you can choose other versions. And if you wanted to set that yourself, then you click the settings button that I just did, and it will bring you to this page. You can rearrange your selected versions as you want. Of course, the one on top is the priority version, and you can add other versions to this short list here by searching them in this this right side of the screen. Now let's go back, and we're going to create a diagram from Genesis. Now, how do you select the text that you want to work with? Well, you begin by choosing the first verse of the text. So let's say it's Genesis chapter 12, verse 6. And I want to diagram it up to verse 15. So you've seen that I selected the beginning verse 6 and the last verse 15, and BibleArc immediately selected all the verses between these two. So as you can see here, Genesis 12, 6 to 15. Now this works even if you're crossing chapters. So if I wanted my diagram to begin in chapter 12, verse 6 for some reason, and I wanted it to end with chapter 14, verse 10, I could do that very easily. Now the maximum amount of chapters you can select in BibleArc is 3. So let me show you that in chapter 12 verse 1, I select that as my beginning verse, and I could go up to chapter 14 verse 24. If I try to select more than that, BibleArc will not allow me. Okay, because it says here, cannot span more than 3 chapters. 3 chapters is the maximum. Now, an easy way to select if you're going to diagram an entire chapter is simply to press on the chapter button or the title itself. So if I wanted to do a diagram on every verse in chapter 13, I would just press chapter 13 and it selects all the verses in that chapter. I'm going to press this checkbox and it'll create the diagram for me. Now for Thea purposes, we always use the single column view. So go to the drop-down menu under the name of the diagram and uncheck the box marked 2-column view. Okay. And here's what you have to work with. Now, how do you manipulate or modify this text here? You're going to use the tools in this toolbox here at the bottom. First, let me show you how to make this box appear and disappear. So if you're using your mouse, you can just close it by pressing the X button and reopen it by going to the top right here and toggling the edit box on and off. A quick way to do this, which I prefer, is by using the space bar on your keyboard. So if I press the space bar, it turns on and off and back on again. You can do the same thing with each of the tabs in your toolbox by using the number buttons on your keyboard. So the first tab can be selected by pressing the number 1. The second tab can be selected by pressing the number 2. The third tab can be selected by pressing 3, etc. Now, how do we use these different tabs? First, I want to show you the indent tab, which is the basic one. The indent tab allows you to move texts up and down. It allows you to separate lines, which is very important in diagramming, or to reconnect lines. It allows you to close empty spaces, as I've shown you, and it allows you to move texts left and right along the diagram. Indenting is very important in Thea. Now, if you want to indent, you can select the lines that you want to work with and manually drag them, as I'm doing using my mouse, or you press the tab button to gradually move the tabs to the right. There's another trick with indenting, which is indent within lines, which allows me to do this. Now, why would I do that? Well, in some cases, you might want your diagram to look something like this. Now, why you would want to do that, that depends on your own style, but I just wanted to make that feature known to you. The second tab is the Edit tab, and this allows us to put text or rearrange text. So if I select this line, I can now add additional text. Now you want to be careful when using this because you don't want to accidentally delete any of the text in scripture that you're diagramming. But this is a helpful tool for putting notes or maybe editing the translation if you're already skilled enough in the original languages. This is also useful for extracting a phrase. So you select the extract a phrase button, and then you choose whether you want to put the extracted phrase above the line you're working with or below the line. So I'm going to select above the line, and I'm just going to select this phrase. Okay, now, and then I select enter, and I can now move this phrase around and edit it somewhat independently of the block that it was originally a part of. And you have this little arrow icon here indicating that this phrase was extracted. And there is this little ellipsis in the original block indicating that there was a phrase that was extracted from this line. If I wanted to put this back in place, I would go to the Edit tab, select the extracted line, or rather, I would go to the Edit tab, select Extract a Phrase, and then you'll see this little button pop out here, the option to reinsert. So I'm going to press that, and voila, it's reinserted into the original line. I'll press Done or hit Enter on my keyboard, and we're done. And I can move that back into place. The third tab is the Sections tab. And this allows you to create sections, mark off sections within a diagram. And let me show you from a ready-made diagram why this is helpful. So if I open up Genesis 37, you will see in my diagram that I have these dividing lines which visually show you the sections of the text. And each of the sections in my diagram also has a title. And this is what the Sections tab allows you to do. So let me show you how to do that. Now, if you want to create the title of your diagram, you can do that. Let me put just in all caps diagram title, and then let me put Genesis 13 so I know what text I'm working with. I'm gonna hit Enter, and there it is. And then I want to create some extra space. The Sections tab also allows me to put a separator. Okay, so go to this button, New Separator, and then select the spot in the diagram where you want to insert a separating line. I'm going to do that here, and here, and here. And then I'm going to hit the Done button or select Enter on my keyboard to input those three lines. So you see I've already divided the diagram into three sections. And if I wanted to add section titles to each of these, I could easily do that. Section 1 title, verses 1, or let me put the chapter here, verses 1 to 7. And I'm going to select the blue font just so it's visually different from the title of the entire diagram. I'm going to do the same for section 2. Section 2 title verses 8 to 12. Hit Enter and do the same for section 3. Section 3 title verses 13 to 18. Hit Enter. And there you go. So again, the most important tools in the Section tab, tab number 3, is the New Separator and the New Headings buttons. The fourth tab on your toolbox is the Arrows tab. And this is a very important tab that we're going to use for diagramming narratives, for plotting. The box is a very important tool. And for diagramming epistles, more didactic texts, you're going to use the arrows a lot more. Now let me show you, going back to my diagram of Genesis 37, how I use the boxes. So the boxes allow you to visually mark certain texts as relating to particular characters in the narrative. Now, how would you do that? You go to the Arrows tab, you click the new box button and then select the text that you want to box in, and then you click the create button or just hit the enter button on your keyboard, and that'll create a box. And you can select the border type that you want, different kind of borders. I usually just go with a solid black border, and then you can choose what color you want the box to be in, corresponding to the character that you want to mark it as being related to. Then you click the done button or hit the enter button on your keyboard, and there you go. There you go. You have the box there. For more didactic texts, you would use the new subordinate arrow here. Now, this is not a didactic text, but let me just show you how it works. Let's say these two lines, let's just pretend that they tell us more about Abram. So I'm going to use the new subordinate button to show their relationship to the name Abram. I'm going to click the new subordinate button. And first I'm going to select the word that is being modified, Abram. And then I'm going to select the lines that are modifying the word. Then I'm going to hit enter on my keyboard. You can choose the style of the line that you want. You can choose the thickness of the line. I'm just going to leave it as it is, but you can choose different colors for your arrows as well. I'm going to hit the enter button, and there you go, there's a new arrow. Okay, now there's also a third button here that is helpful for showing the connections between words. So let's say I wanted to just show a connection between the word herds and, let's see, just for the sake of this demo, let's say offspring for some reason. Let's say there's a connection between these two things in the text. So I'm just going to use this tool to show a connection, and I can change the color, make it a bit more subtle, just so it's not super obvious and it doesn't really distract. Now notice the arrows seem very, very obtrusive, but when you close the toolbox, you can see that it's not as obtrusive as it looks when the toolbox is open. Okay, I'm gonna delete this, and you can delete arrows just by selecting them. When the arrows tab is open, you select an arrow and you have the option to delete it. Same thing with the boxes. The fifth tab is the text tab, and you can open that by clicking this or just pressing 5 on your keyboard. Now, what this text allows you to do is to edit the text on your diagram. So you can choose a text color. Let's say if you wanted to make particular text red, you could do that. And then once you've done selecting that, you can choose to mark words in a different color, and you can just keep going until you're done and you've marked all the words using all the colors that you want, and then you hit the done button. Another tool that you might want to use, I don't really use this tool, but if it'll be helpful for you, then go right on ahead, is to highlight certain words. And again, like the font color tool, you can just keep changing between colors, and when you're done highlighting, just hit the word done. You can also make certain text bold. You can make certain text italicized, underlined, and you can even strike through. Now, why would you use strike through? personally, I would use the strike through option in tandem with the edit tab if I want to change a translation. So let's say after studying this text and maybe reading different commentaries or working with the original languages, I've become convinced that a better translation would be broke away from him instead of separated from him. Okay, so I'm going to hit done. And that's why I use the strike through tool to show that I've replaced this text with what I think is a more accurate or better translation. But for your purposes, because you're not working with original languages, you're probably not going to use the strike through option as frequently. And if you want to remove all formatting, just hit the remove formatting button and yeah, just select all the text you want to revert back to the default format. Now there's a sixth tab here, the size tab, and this allows you to alter the size of the text, the size of the tabs. So the bigger the size of the tabs, the more space the text moves for each time that you hit the tab button. And then you can even edit spacing between lines, as you can see I'm doing here. And of course, if you want to increase the size of your text, you can do that very easily. Okay, so these are the main controls, or these are the tools you will use for editing your diagram. And I hope this video has helped you become familiar with all of these.